We are less than 2 weeks away from the Showcase to the Immortals, WrestleMania 40, happening at Lincoln Financial Field, the home of those stinking Philadelphia Eagles. And boy, WWE has turned up the heat on the road to WrestleMania. And to help me break it all down, bringing in my good friend from WrestleZone, he is Bill Pritchard. Bill, how are you, man?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Doing well. Thanks for joining me. Let's start with the big stuff. Let's start with Cody Rhodes, the American Nightmare. So Friday night, he shows up on SmackDown. We think he's alone, and we think Roman Reigns is alone. Well, outside of Paul Heyman.
Mm-hmm.
And they have their little face off. Well, then all of a sudden, here comes Jimmy Uso. Here comes Solo Sikoa. And we're thinking, oh boy, Cody Rhodes is in trouble. Well, not so fast, my friend, because all of a sudden here comes Jey Uso and Seth freaking Rollins to even the odds, and it ends up just being a stalemate. So, hey, that was a nice little visual. Fast forward to Monday night, Cody gives this impassioned promo like he always does, and surprise, surprise, here comes The Rock. Stares at him, whispers something in his ear, then walks out. And then towards the end of the show, as you know, chaos is ensuing, The Rock jumps Cody in the back, beats him, takes him outside. It's raining, slams him against the bus. Cody's bleeding, talks about that weight belt that he's going to soak in Cody's blood and hand it to Mama Rhodes. It was one of those, it kind of almost a callback to Cody's father getting his arm broken on his, standing by his truck at the hands of the Four Horsemen back in the day. Give me your thoughts on The Rock making Cody bleed.
I loved it. I'm hearing people say it's the best overall episode of Raw in like a decade. I have to agree with that. And I think everybody's just seeing not just last night, but overall, like why The Rock is appreciated being back, why he's so good at what he does. Uh, it's just been on another level the past few weeks, and last night just kind of if you remember the Daniel Bryan Triple H like that beatdown that Triple H just like dragged him all over the ring. I think it was a week before WrestleMania, or like that sort of like go home, like driving the point home. This kind of felt like that, where it was like Cody needs to sort of get his ass handed to him. And I think that was that moment, because now you could kind of do the wounded baby face thing, or you can kind of still do a little bit more instead of just having this be the last thing you see before Mania. So I don't really have any complaints at all about the segment. I loved it.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Um, and I know you've seen the reports. You've seen people, saying that The Rock is overshadowing Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns is now kind of almost like the side piece to The Rock. I mean, does it look that way to you? Do you feel that way? Give me your thoughts on whether The Rock is kind of taking the spotlight away from the Universal Champion.
I think he is, and I hope it's by design. I mean, you could complain all you want. We've talked about Roman being there, not being there, as far as what it means for the Universal title, or undisputed title. But I mean, Rock's doing great work. I have to think that this is, the bigger picture, the long game that he was talking about. Like, because if Roman loses, or if he gets the pin on Saturday, he can be like, look, I'm the one coming in doing the work. I'm the one that made this the biggest Mania of all time. And a lot of that's speculation on my point, but I don't think it's a stretch. I hope they're doing that on purpose because it's obvious, and I hope that's what we get from it.
Well, and that's the thing, because I think, you know, I guess the prevailing theory right now would be Cody wins the title, Roman goes away for a month, 2 months, maybe even 3.
Mhm.
Um,
That's what he does
at,
now.
yeah, and at the same time, The Rock, per reports, he has a movie to do, not too long after Mania,
Mhm.
like 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, and he's going to be,
Mhm.
out of commission for the next couple months. So, assuming Cody does get the win, wins the title, we does it feel like we could see Roman go away? He comes back maybe leading up to SummerSlam, and that's when The Rock shows up, or maybe The Rock shows up at SummerSlam to challenge Roman, just for, to be the tribal chief, the head of the table, all that good stuff.
I could see it happening like that. I have to think you at least get Roman on maybe one of those international events, and I'm thinking, um, is it Money in the Bank? No, Money in the Bank's Toronto.
Yeah.
So, what's the one in France? Backlash, right?
Backlash, yes.
Yeah, Backlash and Bash in Berlin. I'm thinking maybe you get him there, and The Rock, if his schedule, if that's how it plays out, I think SummerSlam for sure. Uh, I mean, I made a crack about it, but I mean, Roman's been taking weeks off, if not a couple months at a time. So I don't think long term there's going to be any issue with that because they're already used to it. But I definitely see this thing taking a break for a while and picking up back up in the summer versus jumping right back into it like next month.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it's, I at SummerSlam last year, I had the feeling, that the bloodline had jumped the shark. It's time to do something, because, just having Roman win every pay-per-view with help from Solo Sikoa or whatever, it was getting old. It's getting
Mhm.
repetitive. Uh, and that's another kind of question. Does Solo Sikoa stay in the bloodline? Does he decide he's had enough and decides, he's bigger than Roman? What do you think?
They haven't really had that tension, like the long, like slow burn tension that they had with anybody else. So I think they could go that route. I mean, it's probably going to be the same exact thing as when Jay and Roman feuded, and going into SummerSlam last year. But I could see him trying it. It might seem fresh to a degree, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, yeah.
I
I mean, they teased it a little.
yeah,
I don't know, maybe what, a month ago. Teased a little bit of, like, Solo looking at Roman like, "What you talking about?" But they kind of just went away, walked away from it, and, back to being just he's the enforcer of the bloodline. So,
yeah.
I mean, I guess we'll see. They did announce Jade Cargill is now going to be part of SmackDown, and she will make her first appearance this Friday night when SmackDown is at the Mohegan Sun. Um, I suspect that, you know Jade Cargill has probably been working a lot at the Performance Center, kind of getting her up to speed on the WWE style after, what she did with AEW, learning at the Nightmare Factory, all that good stuff. Give me your expectations on Jade Cargill as she makes her appearance on SmackDown this Friday night.
I think they should keep the matches short. Uh, I mean, we know she can work to different degrees, but I think for now, keep them short just to sort of get her acclimated to WWE. Uh, the thing that I think about is I know she has a bunch of matches under her belt, but she also hasn't wrestled for months. So just kind of introduce her slowly. And you also I don't think you want to do too much right now just because it's the week before Mania. So maybe, once sort of the fallout from Mania peters out, then maybe give her that big push. But I think for right now, just keep it a short, I don't know, like 3-4 minute match and just let her get reacclimated.
I think I agree with you on that. It's like you said, she's this is a different system. Have her, again, short matches, show off her strength, show off her power, but at the same time, little bite size. Not to mention, she's an attraction, so less is more with her. So
Yeah.
I get that. Um, I want to ask you about that promo from Monday night. Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre. That thing went all over the place, and there were a couple times it almost went off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
I What did you think? Were you entertained? What did you think of that promo? It was, I will say, it was I laughed when Drew McIntyre referred to himself as the chosen one, fed right in CM Punk saying, okay, who made you the chosen one? And of course, they did. They're doing everything not to mention Vince's name. Give me
Mm-hmm.
your thoughts on that promo from Monday Night Raw.
That's another thing that I really loved. And you kind of know the line that they've taken on the allegations, really ugly stuff, and they should distance from him uh with good reason. But this was kind of like it was appreciated. I don't know the right word to put on it, but the fact that he actually went like, yeah, say his name like he's the boogeyman almost.
Hmm.
And Drew looked like he was like trying to hold his laugh because he's like, "Oh, you got me." So I loved that. I loved that they sort of brought up the uh they didn't bring up the allegations, but they
Oh,
brought up like, "Oh, we can't say his name," like
yeah.
he who must not be named. But I watched the whole thing again today, and I really liked it. My only criticism would be it kind of felt like Seth felt out of place for a little bit because when he shows up, it's kind of like Punk and Drew have this really good back and forth banter, and then Seth kind of shows up and he's like, what about me? Don't forget about me, which if you think about it, plays nicely on Seth saying that Punk needed him for a WrestleMania moment this year. It's almost like Punk's taking the attention away from him, so Seth needs him just as much, or Seth needs Drew just as much to sort of keep the attention on him, even though he's the champion. So I thought there was uh, a nice contrast to his argument. But overall, the promo was awesome. I think it was like 23 minutes or 22 minutes from first entrance to when it ended, and it had my attention for pretty much the entire time.
I'll say the same thing. It was captivating. And and maybe that's what they planned.
Mhm.
It felt a little like, okay, we're gonna, they had a couple talking points, but we're kind of gonna shoot from the hip here a little bit. And that's what we got. And it was, and there was a little bit of language that you could tell it was, kind of omitted.
Mhm.
Uh but all in all, it was an entertaining piece of television. I'll give them that. So
Yeah.
and of course, Seth and Drew, battle for the World Heavyweight Championship. And I guess now CM Punk's going to be on commentary for that match. Is that the way you understand it?
I believe so. I don't think he's going to stay at the desk, but I think he's going to call the match until he, either enters the ring or gets involved somehow.
Yeah.
I think he's a little healthier than people maybe think he is.
Maybe he's closer to being 100% than he wants to reveal at the moment. So
Yeah. I
I get it.
I don't see him sitting there and not getting physical if that's a better way to put it. But I don't think obviously he's not completely cleared yet. He's rehabbing, but I think there's going to be some sort of physical element to sort of bridge the gap further until his return.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, we're like I said, we're less than 2 weeks away, and uh, I want to get your pick of all the title matches. So you'll have Cody versus Roman for the Universal title, Seth versus Drew for the World Heavyweight title, Rhea and Becky Women's World title, Io Sky and Bailey for the Women's title. Let's see, you got Gunther and Sami Zayn for the IC title, Logan Paul, Kevin Owens, Randy Orton for the US title, and then Priest and Balor in that 6-pack challenge for the tag titles. If you had to pick one champion that is you're going to put the house on that will retain, which champion retains next weekend?
Probably be easier to start eliminating the ones I don't have confidence in. Honestly, I could see it being Gunther.
Okay.
I, I just I agree with people saying like this feels like Chad Gable's story, and it's not. Sammy shouldn't be in the match. I think he should be in the match at WrestleMania. It's just the way that they're doing this. I feel like it's going to play out past that, where we either get a triple threat or we have some stuff between Sammy and Gable outside of, excluding Gunther. But I would say I'm most confident in Gunther retaining.
Okay. If I had to pick, and I'll of course make my pick next week, but if I had to pick one champion that will retain, I'm going to say Logan Paul, just because I think that's part of the reason why they decided to do a triple threat.
Mm-hmm.
I would say he's probably the champion with the shortest reign so far. And I think they want to milk having him, having that belt on the Impulsive podcast or whatever, just a little more, especially
Mm-hmm.
now that his brother's going to fight Mike Tyson at Jerry World in Arlington in a couple months. So I'm thinking Logan Paul is probably most likely to retain. I can't think of it, and I'll ask you: can you think of a WrestleMania where we had all the titles change hands?
I want to say it's happened once. I don't know for sure, but
I want to say somebody said 17, which
yeah, I
would be
think
2000. I think
tw-
I'd have to watch it back because I'll be honest, I barely remember.
no, that was 17 was I thought it was 2002 or 2001. Because 16 was 2000
Okay,
branded.
maybe it was. Yeah,
So I think, yeah, it was March 2001. I actually think it was St. Patrick's Day.
but yeah, but I can't think of another WrestleMania. I mean, this one. I mean, you've seen the betting odds from Bet Online. I don't think nobody's safe right now. Now
Mm-hmm.
they could pivot, but as of right now, it feels like every title could change hands. Kind of like what New Japan does with Wrestle Kingdom. They'll have everybody retain and restart their booking year or whatever. So yeah, should be fun to watch next year. Have you checked out? Oh yeah, I guess you haven't. Give me your thoughts. WWE Next Gen, the new docu-series that's going to premiere April 1st on the Roku channel. John Cena is an executive producer, and I think he's even in first couple episodes. This feels like kind of like pull the curtain back on, the tryouts that they have every so often, centered around their big pay-per-views.
I'm looking forward to it. I hope that it's. Do you remember Breaking Ground?
I do.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's something like that where I don't expect to see any of these people on TV anytime soon. So I hope it's a little bit more on the documentary side, less on the Tough Enough side, because the original Tough Enoughs were very entertaining, but the last one I just really didn't care for. Uh, so I'm hoping it's just more like Breaking Ground, and I just want them to show everything with a look. And I feel like they do this with the documentary stuff. They don't edit as much, or they show a little bit more of a truthful side versus editing things for entertainment value that some of the other shows out there do. So,
Yeah.
and if we, it might be fun to see some of these people like, oh yeah, they're going to be the first one to get on NXT, or they're going to get the first call up. So there's that element like to it too. So I'm looking forward to it. I think this is probably one of and I think it's premiering the same day, but the Bray Wyatt documentary, like
Yeah.
those two I haven't looked forward to much since, like, that on the same level in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal premieres same day on Peacock. And I'll be honest, I was not a big I wasn't a big fan of all the, the hooky booky, I mean, Bray Wyatt, great in the ring, very creative. The stuff didn't speak to me, but now I'm really interested in watching this documentary and seeing, the creative that happened going into a lot of that stuff. So I'm really looking forward to that one. He is Bill Pritchard. Read everything that they have on WrestleZone.com. And Bill, I know you're gonna be so busy next weekend in Philly. Have a great time out there. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me as always.